the silent classroom. It was a chilly evening when Sarah first stepped into the old school building. The air was heavy with an eerie silence, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. Sarah was a young, curious student who had just moved to the town. She had heard stories about the abandoned schoolroom, Room 13, which was said to be haunted. Her friends had dared her to spend a night there. Being brave, or perhaps just too stubborn to back down, she accepted the challenge. The door creaked open, revealing the dark and dusty room. As Sarah entered, she felt a sudden drop in temperature. She shivered, but she brushed it off as her imagination playing tricks on her. The room was exactly as she had imagined. Old wooden desks covered in dust, a broken blackboard, and a single flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling. She set her backpack down and took a deep breath. The silence was deafening. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to steady her breathing. She took out her flashlight and began exploring the room. Every step she took seemed to echo loudly, making her feel as if she wasn't alone. She reached the teacher's desk and found an old, tattered notebook. Curious, she opened it and began to read. The notebook contained notes from a teacher named Mr. Thompson. The entries were dated back to 1955. As she read through the pages, she learned about a student named Emily who had mysteriously disappeared. The more Sarah read, the more she felt a connection to Emily. It was as if Emily's spirit was calling out to her, begging for help. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the room. Sarah jumped, dropping the notebook. She turned around, her flashlight beam dancing wildly across the walls. But there was nothing there. The room seemed to be playing tricks on her mind, making her question her sanity. Sarah picked up the notebook again and continued reading. Mr. Thompson had written about strange occurrences in the classroom, whispers, shadows, and the feeling of being watched. He believed that Emily's disappearance was linked to the supernatural events happening in Room 13. Sarah's curiosity turned into fear as she realized that she might be in danger. She decided to leave the classroom and come back in the morning with her friends. But as she reached for the door, it slammed shut on its own. Panic set in as she tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Sarah was trapped. The room seemed to be alive, and it wasn't going to let her go easily. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper. It was Emily's voice, pleading for help. Sarah followed the voice to the corner of the room where she found a hidden trap door. She pried it open and descended into the darkness below. The air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to swallow her whole as she ventured further into the unknown. At the bottom of the stairs, she found a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a makeshift altar with a photograph of Emily. Surrounding the photograph were strange symbols and candles, some still burning faintly. Sarah realized that she had stumbled upon a sinister ritual site. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and a shadowy figure appeared. It was Emily, or what was left of her. Her eyes were hollow, and her expression was one of eternal torment. Emily reached out to Sarah, her voice echoing in the small room. "Help me! Free me from this curse!" Sarah's fear turned into determination. She had to help Emily, no matter the cost. Sarah took the photograph and the candles and placed them in a circle. She remembered reading about rituals in the notebook and tried to recreate one to break the curse. As she lit the candles, she chanted the words written in the notebook. The air grew thick with tension as the candles flickered wildly. The room seemed to pulse with energy. The shadowy figure of Emily began to glow, her form becoming more solid. Sarah continued chanting, her voice growing stronger with each word. Suddenly, a burst of light filled the room, and Emily's spirit was released. The room fell silent once more, but this time it was a peaceful silence. Sarah collapsed to the floor, exhausted but relieved. She had done it. Emily was free, and the curse on Room 13 was lifted. The door to the classroom creaked open, and Sarah knew it was time to leave. As she stepped out into the night, the school building seemed less ominous, and the air felt lighter. Sarah knew she had made a difference, and the spirits of the past could finally rest. Sarah never spoke of that night to anyone, but she knew that Room 13 would no longer haunt the dreams of the students. The old school building eventually crumbled, but the story of Emily and the brave girl who freed her lived on as a legend, whispered among the townspeople.